¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Thursday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Thursday morning. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. Or not. Never mind. Hey, Avon, how's it going? Howdy, everybody. Alia with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Today is, I believe, the next iteration of the January 6 hearings. I believe 8 p.m. 8 p.m. is the prime time showing. So I highly recommend you guys check this out. We ourselves will not be streaming it, but I'm sure there's a bunch of people who will be. Abon with the 100 biddies kicking us off. 110 biddies total. It's 3 hours of Trump bashing? No, it's not just Trump bashing. It's not just about that. It's about exposing what happened on that in the insurrection, essentially. That's just kind of like a byproduct of it, right? All right, folks. Today we have quite a few different headlines to go through. I agree with that. Fun, no more MAGA. It's not that simple. It's not that simple. MAGA is alive and well, and I don't know if this is like the kill shot, you know? I don't think these people care, is my argument. Most of them aren't even watching this unfold. Yeah, like there are people who might be changed by it, but like the people who are going to be on Trump's side are going to be on Trump's side, you know? Like you're not going to change those people. Like you're not going to change the people who hang out on Truth Social all day, you know? Yeah, like even if they don't change parties, like acknowledge the fact that like the party you're currently in is just incompatible with democracy. That's just the way it is. Alright, let's get some headlines going. Have not seen the Beckosphere's Twitch channel. It's there. Here, I'll show you. There it is. Go follow. President Biden got COVID. Yes, we'll cover that briefly. That's kind of been like all over the place, but briefly. All right, first things first. Let's dunk on Matt Walsh for a second. Remember when they spent years telling us to panic over the hole in the ozone layer, and then suddenly just stopped talking about it and no one ever mentioned the ozone layer again? This is a real tweet. This is an actual tweet. I saw that about Biden getting COVID and thought, oh, now you think it's serious? That's funny. Then Steve Bannon, the Trump advisor. What do you mean? Like he's testifying? He's going to jail. Probably. Echo Resto Dragon. Howdy, howdy. Evening. Maybe 2 years max. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Can anybody tell me what's wrong with this picture? Oh yeah, I take COVID very seriously. It's not fun. Do not recommend. I do not recommend. Naughty Grandma, how's it going? That's funny because I just got an ozone alert on my phone for our area. Yeah. It's called chlorofluorocarbons, you dumbass. Yeah. That's Matt Walsh, part of the conservative intelligentsia. Not understanding how science works. There's some good memes. Yeah, so the reason why we don't talk about or we don't hear much about it is because a bunch of scientists discovered that what was causing the ozone layer what was causing the ozone layer was, well, us. And then we got together as a complete global community and decided to do something about it, and universally banned the substances that made and banned the substance that created the holes. I don't know who Brandon is. Brandon got quadruple booster but still got COVID. How does that work? I don't know who Brandon is. Also, I'm not sure we're on the quadruple. Brandon as in Sleepy Joe. I don't know who Sleepy Joe is. Who's Sleepy Joe? I'm feeling pretty sleepy myself. Sleepy Joe is our unelected president. Well, I don't know who Sleepy Joe is, but our current elected president is Joe Biden. Our current elected president is currently named Joe Biden. I don't know who's the unelected president. Is there like an unelected person who's called Sleepy Joe? Is that what you're trying to say? Because I'm not aware of this. The medical profession people are getting 4th round of boosters. Oh, okay. So for the medical profession. Okay. Gotcha. I personally don't like the term elected due to the controversy and the fairness of the election of 2020. Again, what you're spewing is gobbledygook. Because I have no idea what you're talking about. I personally don't like the term elected. Well, first of all, I don't know who Brandon is. I don't know who Sleepy Joe is. And if there's another unelected leader, then they're not the president. Okay? The current elected president of the United States of America, the country that I currently live in, is Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Wrong? Really? Hot damn, I didn't realize that there was another president. God damn. Hold on. Let me just check because I want to make sure we get this right. Who is the current president of the United States? Oh. Huh. That's interesting. Okay, cool. Glad we solved that problem. Remember when they spent years telling us to panic? Okay, so the goal here is to, I think that the goal here is to limit or downplay the severity of the climate crisis. That's what Matt Walsh is doing here. He's trying to, from what I understand, he's trying to make the argument. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Pepperidge Farm remembers. So the idea is to equate the climate crisis to like the ozone layer. He's trying to say, well, there was a time where people made a big brouhaha about the ozone layer, and then they just stopped talking about it. Well, no, you missed a couple of steps, Matt Walsh. We got together as a global community and we decided to A, find the source of this, and B, get together as a global community and fix it. Or try to, anyways. We banned the exact substances that were found to create these ozone holes. Like, this isn't exactly like not news, right? This isn't exactly news. Should we be still concerned about the ozone? Yes. Hey, Astro, how's it going? There is no climate crisis. Really? On the basis of what? Obama bought a seafront property. I don't give a shit what Obama bought. Or didn't buy. I don't give a shit. Do you have proof? Let's go. 5 seconds. Come on. What is your proof that there's no climate crisis? Listen, if you're gonna come here and you're gonna spew some bullshit, you better have some shit to back it up. Let's go. You have proof? Go ahead, send it. Send it to me via whispers. Let's go. Let's show your proof. Come on. Let's go. Chop chop, buddy. We're gonna learn today the hard way that if you come up here and you make some stupid fucking claims, that you better have proof for it. Let's go. No, I said send it to me in DMs because I don't let links in chat. Do you have a listening problem? Several questions. Globalwarmingsolved.com. Does that sound like a legit reputable link? Actually, let me check the source of this. Nah, this doesn't sound right to me. This does not sound right to me. Okay, so it is a real website. Man, that was scary. That was scary. All right, let's take a look at here. Our papers, because I don't give a shit about whatever. Major problems identified in data adjustments applied to a widely used Greta, blah, 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 blah. So no studies. Very lacking in studies. Let's see who Connolly Scientific Research Group is. Ooh. This guy, the Connolly Scientific Research Group, Dr. Ronan Connolly is a chemist and a computational dude from chemistry, not an environmental scientist. So I don't know why we're discussing this. Dude who has nothing to do with global warming. Carbon is a chemical. Cool. Nice. Cool. Awesome. Explain to me how you would trust, first of all, the minority of scientists, not the plurality of evidence. And second of all, why is your big got you lacking in studies? Do you see studies here? Our papers. What is this? Does this look like a study to you? Some graphs with some pictures with some numbers? Does that look like studies to you? Is that what it takes to convince you? How intellectually small do you have to be? How intellectually small do you have to be to look at a website like this, find a couple of graphs with pictures? However, many people mistakenly assume that 90 to 95% of scientists agree that recent climate change is mostly human-caused. Yes, that's true. The reality is that there's a wide range of views among the scientific community about the causes of recent climate change. Many scientists agree with that view, but many do not. That's not telling me anything. What's the data behind that? Where did he get this information? Do you understand how, like, intellectually puny you have to be to just look at this and be like, yeah, this looks good to me? Basically, there's no consensus and it's still an open question. Not really. No, that's just not true. So it says that there's a quote here. But what's the data behind it? What the F are the bar graphs talking about? Doesn't make any sense to me. No, it's all BS. This is a BS, like, half-baked website about this. No, because this is a learning opportunity, folks. This is a learning opportunity. Have you tried? Have you gone on this website? Have you gone on this website? Do you just believe everything with numbers on it, or do you actually try? Have you actually tried to look at the thing? Uh-oh. Ooh, yikes. Yikes. Hmm. Damn. Let's see over here. Maybe this one give it to us. Here we go. Asciform.net. Abstract. In years, the NOAA Earth system has been launching very high quality resolution of ozone disks from 8 sites across the globe. Antarctica, blah 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 blah. It's a unique and high quality archive data set allows direct intercomparison between various and new and old techniques for analyzing the troposphere and stratosphere transition that were not previously possible. With this in mind, we have analyzed one complete year, 2016, of ozone data from 8 locations in terms of several widely definitions of tropopause as well as new definitions. We find a surprising cohesiveness between many of the independent definitions of the tropopause as it does not appear to have been properly recognized until now. Cool, based, dope. What exactly... How exactly does this prove that global warming isn't true? Introduction. Let's go through some studies. At the start of the 20th century, improvement in balloon technology allowed researchers to take measurements from higher in the atmosphere. Discovered that above altitudes of roughly 10 to 15 kilometers, the temperature lapse rate undergoes some changes that were completely unexpected at the time. See Hoinka 1997 for a detailed historical review. In the lower temperature, now called the troposphere, yes, the temperature lapse rate is mostly negative, except when so-called temperature inversion layers. However, at a point which is now called the tropopause, temperatures start to remain fairly constant with height. It was later discovered that even at higher latitudes, the region known as the stratosphere, temperatures start to increase with height. Cool. Wow. Nice. Damn. Cool. Explain to me, did you take a look at this and explain to me how this disproves the idea that climate change isn't real? This isn't a research paper, my friend. No, this isn't a research paper. Scientific opinions on climate change. Matt Dempsey's recent article in this newspaper about the role of methane emissions in climate change prompted several commentators to repeat the claim that 90 to 97% of scientists agree that climate change is entirely human-caused and unprecedented. That claim is not true. In the infographics, we have summarized 4 main surveys of scientists on climate change. We can see that yes, 90 to 97% agree that climate changes and that there have been some global warming since the late 19th century. However, there's considerable debate about how much of these trends are natural and how much are human-caused. In last week's issue of the newspaper, Professor Sweeney, a climate scientist at NUI Maynooth, past president on ISEC and a member of the board of directors of Friends of the Earth Ireland, criticized Matt Dempsey's reporting on a recent lecture in Dublin. MIT climate scientist Professor Richard Linson. We also were at the lecture along with Sweeney and other various scientists and experts. Both Sweeney and Linsen have contributed to the IPCC, and both of them agree that climate change is out there very different views on the relative roles of human and natural factors. So when we notice Sweeney and Linsen talk, we are looking forward to hearing them debate the science in the Q&A after the talk. However, remarkably, Sweeney didn't have any scientific argument to counter Linsen's point. Instead, he chose to play the man and not the ball, and accused Linsen and being a spokesperson for the tobacco industry. What? Who's this guy? He's a physicist. He's an atmospheric physicist. He's an atmospheric physicist who publishes for right-wing newspapers. From the Cato Institute. Holy shit. This is why you need to check your sources, folks. This is a great fucking opportunity to understand and learn. This is who he's trying to quote. Linsen is a former distinguished fellow from the Cato Institute, which is a conservative think tank. Has received at least $125,000 from ExxonMobil since 1998. Linsen charged oil and coal organizations $2,500 per day for his consulting services. Linsen has described ExxonMobil as the only principled oil and gas company I know. In 2017, he earned approximately $30,000 from Peabody Coal in connection to testimony Linsen gave at the proceeding of the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission in 2015. Linsen argued that believing in climate change is largely caused by increases in carbon dioxide is pretty close to believing in magic. Can you imagine? Hey, listen, buddy. You need to be a little bit more intellectually robust, and take 5 seconds like I did and observe the names that are being produced when you take a look. When you take a look and are presented with quote unquote scientific articles or opinions or anything of the sort. Free college for all, for real. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So when you just start Googling around the names, you start to realize where biases are, and you can kind of just tear and destroy like the credibility of the sources being provided, right? Like First of all, red flag number one. This goes against the plurality of all data and kind of consensus for scientists, right? So that should be the first red flag. And second of all, you need to look into who is writing these things and what names are being mentioned and thrown around here. So the idea here is to obfuscate or create a narrative that there's still some type of debate. There is no debate being had here. It is one person who is not living in reality, and the other one who is. That's it. There's no debate here being had. If you're Linsen, you're not living in reality. You're being given tons of money by the fossil fuel industry to tell you that CO2 isn't the cause. Of course. Does it not strike you as a little bit weird to find out that the guy who's magically opposing this idea of climate change is also the same guy who is receiving a bunch of money from the fossil fuel industry to tell you that their products and emissions are not the problem? Sad. Like Philip Morris does not kill people with tobacco. Right. This is the exact same analogy. That is the tobacco industry and the fossil fuel industry is a perfect analogous example. Yes. And also, you have to question the phrasing of climate scientist. He is not a climate scientist. That's not what we found. He's not a climate scientist. Dr. Michael Connolly and Ronan Connolly are independent scientists and environmentalists. No, they're not. Who have been actively carrying out climate research for nearly a decade. All of their climate research has been carried out voluntarily and they've received no funding for it. Then why are they trying to create the narrative that there's some kind of debate when the other person, Richard Linsen, is a fossil fuel shill? Explain that. Explain that. Why are they trying to create this narrative that there's some kind of debate going on here, when in reality what's happening here is Richard Linsen is a fossil fuel shill who's just not who's being paid to lie to you. Who's being paid to lie to you. Okay? Who's being paid by fossil fuel companies. Explain that to me. Rationalize that for me, please. This is on their website. Did Dr. Michael Connolly not have the foresight to take 5 seconds to research this? Or is it possible that he's trying to paint a false narrative and try to lie to you? This is why you check your sources, folks. This is why you check your sources. Right, anyone who's going to go against the general scientific consensus in any topic better be swinging with a mighty big bat. There's nothing wrong with scientific disagreements. It's part of the process, but you can't walk into a room of experts and say you're all wrong. Right. And like without like a good, significant like groundwork to lay it on here. Some people have never had to do research papers and find real studies, and it shows. Yeah, I mean, like we got an opinion made by this website who's dubious at best to attempt to dispute the claim that the majority of scientists do not believe that this is a consensus or whatever. Obviously, that's bullshit. And the example that he's trying to give is somebody who's being paid for by the fossil fuel industry, who's not even a climate scientist, who's being categorized and put as a climate scientist, but he's not. Remember, there are lies, damn lies, and statistics. That's true, but this isn't even about that. I'm questioning the sources behind this opinion, and I'm basically tearing apart this idea because what they're presenting us to us is not true. And furthermore, the one contribution that this guy had was back in 2001. For the IPCC report back in 2001. Okay, that's the last like kind of check that we have on his work. This paper, yeah, this isn't a research paper, okay? This isn't a research paper. This is 3 pages of talking points. This is 3 pages, not even full pages, but these are 3 pages of talking points. Versus John Sweeney, who is actually a climatologist and worked on this newest iteration of the IPCC report. This is not a scientific document. This is not a scientific document at all. You've never seen a scientific document in your life. This is nothing close to a scientific document. Does this look like a research paper to you? Have you seen a research paper? What is this document anyways? This is gobbledygook. This is an opinion. 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah, 1 + 1 = 2. Yeah, that's true. This is not a scientific document. The document we're looking in front of us is not a scientific document. No, it is not. So John Sweeney is actually a climatologist and has worked on the IPCC as recently as this year in 2022. Versus Richard Linson, someone who has received money, tens of thousands of dollars from the fossil fuel industry, and his last work with the IPCC was 2001. This is not a scientific document. There's no research behind this at all. I called BS the second chatter came out and said it isn't real. Oh yeah, of course. But, you know, sometimes when we have such like intellectually small and lazy claims, we kind of gotta take this opportunity, right? What is this document? Nothing. It's literally nothing. Have a great day, everyone. Gotta go take care of a sick friend. You have a great day and hope everything's okay. I'm not saying climate change is real. I question whether it was human influence. And I'm saying, what is the evidence that you have? Because so far, the only evidence you've provided is bullshit. You haven't sold anybody onto the idea. You haven't sold a single person on the idea. Your sources are bullshit. Your little website is dubious at best. The scientists being named here are fossil fuel shills. and your statement goes against the scientific consensus. So I have to ask, what is your source? What reasoning did you come to make this belief, to come to this realization? Because it's not true. It's just not true. What you're saying is not true empirically. Correct. Scientists have been talking about the greenhouse effect for decades, which is a main driver of global warming. And do you know what causes the greenhouse effect? CO2. Damn. And do you know what is the main driver of CO2 emissions? One of the main drivers? There's a couple. That's right. Fossil fuels. And fossil fuels, and this is true, are created by humans. Carl Sagan was explaining the basic principles of greenhouse effect and global warming to Congress like 40 years ago. Yeah, this is like well known and well established. The people who are going against like the consensus of science and plurality of data are just flat out wrong and are there to push a narrative, right? And it always happens to be that every time I Google these names, they come up as fossil fuel shills.
What if you could get rid of your kitchen garbage?
It's not the sun, which hasn't changed much since 1850. It's not volcanoes, which cool the earth for a year or two when they erupt. It's not aerosols. These tiny particles and gases in pollution reduce warming as they cause clouds to reflect more of the sun's energy back to space. It's not changes in land use. The conversion of dark forest to paler pasture, which reflects more of the sun's light, has had a modest cooling effect. Is it ozone pollution? Increases in the lower atmosphere from human activity warm things a bit. Yes, it's greenhouse gases. Rising concentrations of greenhouse gases as a result of human activity are by far the biggest cause. When we compare human factors and natural factors, it's clear who's responsible for global warming.
Yeah. So, anyways. I'm questioning the absurd logic. But yeah. This is garbage. Nothing here. And the study has nothing to do with climate change. Are we good? Are we done? Cool. All right, so back to dunking on Matt Walsh. Apparently, Matt Walsh never heard of CFCs and the Montreal Protocol, where the whole kind of Earth got together, and decided that they were going to do something about it. Yeah. I mean, like, it must be easy to be right wing, right? It must be easy for the conservative mind, right? Like, to just not rely on any like arguments or facts. It must be the easiest thing in the world to just kind of close your eyes and just go with whatever you feel. It must be nice. Dr. Linson accepts the elementary tenets of climate science. He agrees that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas, calling people who dispute that nutty. And he agrees that the level of it is rising because of human activity. Yeah, but here he was saying that that's not true. Linson was actually disputing that, and taking money from fossil fuels. Perhaps maybe earlier in his career he believed it. So even this guy who's been cited as evidence that humans aren't impacting climate change admits that humans are impacting climate change. He just thinks that the planet can mitigate it with some weird theory about clouds. Right. But yeah, no. Ooh. Yeah, it must be easy. Must be easy being Matt Walsh. It must be easy being conservative and just kind of closing your eyes to like evidence and science and reality. And unironically post tweets like this. Ignorance is bliss, that's true. That's true. So to conclude, anyone who says humans aren't impacting climate change don't even concur with the dissenters of climate scientists, let alone the consensus of scientists. They're completely delusional. Yeah, we know. Exactly, James Napper. I'm just thoroughly like illustrating that point that you make these conclusions up. You see some claims that are posted on a random dubious website that don't confirm the consensus of science, and then that's what you base your beliefs on. Literally nothing. You base your beliefs on nothing. And it comes apart with the most minimum scrutiny. I don't think we took that long to find out and exactly where this is leading us, right? Like, it didn't take that long, okay? Funny enough, reminds me of this paper I just saw today. Yeah, you might want to read up on this one, my friend. Knowledge over confidence is associated with anti-consensus views on controversial scientific issues. Public attitude that are in opposition to scientific consensus can be disastrous and include rejection of vaccines, opposition to climate mitigation policies. 5 studies examined the interrelationship between opposition to expert consensus on controversial scientific issues, how much people actually know about these issues, and how much they think they know. Across 7 critical issues that enjoy substantial scientific consensus, as well as attitudes toward COVID vaccines and mitigation measures like mask wearing and social distancing, results indicate that those with the highest level of opposition have the lowest level of objective knowledge, but the highest level of subjective knowledge. Damn. This is the most long-winded way of saying facts over feels, or in this case, feels over facts. They should have just listen. I could write this abstract in like one sentence. If people who are intellectually tiny do the whole feels over facts, people who actually want to get down to the bottom of things do the whole facts over feels. There you go. There's your abstract. I know there's a Lancaster bomber on the moon because a newspaper told me so, and there it is. It's true. For those unwilling to properly learn, an easy-to-read collection of facts can be seen as indistinguishable from objective truth. That's a good point. I like that quote. Anyways, TLDR, check your sources, okay? When somebody comes up to you with some gobbledygook like this person did, check your sources. If somebody comes up to you and immediately disputes like what the scientific consensus is saying, you should immediately question why, and then find out where that's coming from, and then you'll realize, it's a valuable source, I think. Maple Leaf Dragon, I believe that source. But the highest levels of subjective knowledge implications for scientists, policymakers, and science communicators are discussed. Opposition to scientific consensus has often been attributed to non-experts' lack of knowledge, an idea referred to as deficit model. According to this view, people lack scientific knowledge, allowing attitudes from lay theories, rumors, or uninformed peers to predominate. Yeah, like if you don't understand what you're talking about or have no concept of the topic at hand, maybe go towards people who actually know what they're talking about. And if you can't understand that, that's okay. Just say you don't know. Most of the time, I find anyone who gives a simplistic answer to any sort of question is usually in the overconfident bracket. Smart, informed people tend to appreciate nuance. True! Based and true. Life is only about nuance. If only people knew the facts the deficit model posits, then they would be able to arrive at beliefs more consistent with the science. Proponents of the deficit model attempt to change the attitudes to educational interventions and cite survey evidence that typically finds a moderate relation between science literacy and pro-consensus views. However, education-based interventions to bring the public in line with scientific consensus have shown little efficacy, casting doubt on the value of the Jesus Christ. Damn. Casting doubt on the value of the deficit model, this has led to a broadening psychological theories that emphasize factors beyond individual knowledge. One such theory, cultural cognition, posits that people's beliefs are shaped people's beliefs are shaped more by their cultural values or affiliations, which lead them to selective bias. Because you agree with a certain viewpoint, or you're inclined with a certain biases, you tend to believe X, Y, or Z. I mean, yes, the key is to always learn. Always be learning. That's true. Which lead them to selectively take in and interpret information in a way that conforms to their worldview. Like our friend here. Evidence in support of the cultural cognition model is compelling, but other findings suggest that knowledge is still relevant. Higher levels of education, science literacy, and numeracy have been found to be associated with more polarization between groups on controversial scientific topics. Some have suggested that better reasoning makes it easier for individuals to deduce their way to conclusions they already value. But see. Others have found that scientific knowledge and ideology contribute separately to attitudes. Recently, evidence has emerged suggesting a potentially important revision to models of the relationship between knowledge and anti-science attitudes. Those with the most extreme anti-consensus views may be the least likely to apprehend the gaps in their knowledge. In a series of studies in opposition to GM foods, on opposition to, I guess, genetically modified foods, Fernbach found that individuals most opposed were the least knowledgeable about science and genetics, but rated their understanding of the technology to the highest in the sample. Oh man, the Dunning-Kruger effect, essentially, right? That's what we're reading. Jesus. That's what they're reading. Yeah, that's what they're mentioning. Dunning-Kruger effect. A similar pattern emerged for gene therapy, although not for climate change denial. Related findings have been reported for opponents of vaccination claiming to know more than the doctors about autism. And for anti-establishment voters in a Dutch referendum reporting knowing more about the issues, and they really do. Surprise, surprise. Those with the most strongly held anti-consensus views may be not only the least knowledgeable, but also the most overconfident about how much they know. Living, breathing, walking Dunning-Krugers. Amazing. Thanks. The internet was a mistake, folks. Two days ago, the UK had temperatures that was 2 degrees higher than anything ever measured since the records began in 1794. Jesus. Some of the most informed people I've ever known, least informed people I've ever known, have doctorate degrees. Well, I don't know. You have to then question, like, okay, are they doing something on purpose? I mean, like, you're not immune from it, regardless of your doctorate degree. You're not immune to having, like, personal biases that will mess you up. Anyways, I hope this was informative. If you want to check out the full study,
Believe it or not, Donald Trump is starting to lose his vice grip on the Republican Party, and there's a couple of reasons as to why I think this is the case. First is that I think that the January 6th public hearings is more and more seen as a liability.
it can definitely happen. Sometimes people are particularly absorbed in their field will neglect other things that seem obvious to people. I don't think it makes them stupid or anything. It just means that they prioritize one thing over another. For example, my friend's a chemist. He tells me stuff about chemistry. I know politics and history, so I tell him stuff about that. Yep. Credentials have a tendency to make some people arrogant about everything. Yeah, exactly. It's the it would be like a appeal to authority, right? Like, just because you're a neurologist doesn't mean, and you're an extremely brilliant neurologist, who absolutely knows what they're talking about when it comes to that, try to square off with a climate scientist about climate change. I mean, these two things, like, or vice versa, like some climate scientist is going to try to, like, tell a neurologist about how neurology is supposed to work or something like that. I don't know. Oh yeah, Andrew Wakefield. This was the guy who started, like, the essentially, I would almost say he is like the grandfather, like the dude about the anti-vax movement. Yeah. only has IT apprenticeship. I have no formal education. Okay, that's the difference. I have zero formal education. Okay, the extent of my actual academic background is maybe a couple of years in college. That's it.
Even if you're a GOP voter and you don't necessarily agree with the content and you still believe that Trump won the election, either way, you've got to make a strategic calculation and determine whether or not his electability has been diminished because these public hearings are hurting him. Another thing that is changing this dynamic in the Republican Party is that there's a new fascist that GOP voters are drawn to, and that individual is obviously Ron DeSantis, and this is reflected in polling as well. For example, DeSantis in Florida now has a 20-point lead over Donald Trump.
Jesus. Definitely in a political sense, the more informed people are, the more ideologically partisan they tend to be, which creates blind spots, not to be confused with identity partisanship, which is just about being different for the sake of dislike. Yeah. Okay. I have a university degree and I'm still stupid. Nah, I don't know about that, but that's funny. A degree doesn't always translate to knowing what you're talking about. I mean, unless it's the degree that you are, graduating in. Like, for example, my girlfriend is graduated in economics and she started doing her master's in like applied economics or something like that. Yeah, she knows her shit for that. Absolutely. I can ask her questions about how like economic things work and stuff like that. I can ask her questions to make sure that what I'm saying makes sense. Because that's what she graduated in. Of course she's gonna know what she's talking about. My degree is a doctorate in computer science. That's actually pretty cool. You have a degree. You can have a degree in something, but it doesn't mean you know everything. Some people use a degree to think they know it all. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So if I have an economics question, I'm gonna go to like the person who's like on their way to do their master's degree for economics, right? Like that's the knowledge that I have, and the knowledge that I combat these like asinine conservative like economic talking points with. They didn't just materialize out of nowhere. I go to the person who knows what the F they're talking about, right? The same thing goes. I'm not a climate scientist. So do you know what I do? I go to climate scientists who know what the F they're talking about. I look for the consensus of the expert of the whatever field or whatever topic I'm looking for, right? Like, I'm not going to sit here and try to argue with the consensus of science. The smartest people have a curious mind and are always learning. True. So yeah, that's my point. My point is that I am not an expert on basically anything. I'm gonna be a little bit honest here. I'm not an expert on anything, but I go to where the source of the information is, right? Whatever I'm looking for. Yeah.
Now, yes, DeSantis does have the home state advantage here, but in 2016, Trump managed to beat Rubio by nearly 19 points, despite that being Rubio's home state. Now, sure, Rubio is different than DeSantis, but either way, this is still a really huge development. Now, in Michigan,
we're dealing with a different beast, my friend. To make that comparison, like Marco Rubio has nowhere near, I think, the energy or presence that DeSantis does. Yeah. No, these are two different things. Two different
DeSantis
beasts.
is within striking distance of Donald Trump, now polling within the margin of error in this really crucial battleground state. Now, by far and away, at this point in time, Donald Trump still is the GOP favorite in 2024, but that is beginning to change. Now, this is anecdotal evidence, but just the GOP normies that I know in my personal life, they're starting to talk about how more and more they like Ron DeSantis. They like that he is less divisive than Donald.
Yeah, that's a problem. That's a problem. Like, I don't know if I haven't watched this video, but that's a problem. If Ron DeSantis starts to rise in the polls and starts to overtake Trump, that's not a good thing. Ron DeSantis is much more dangerous than Donald Trump. And worst of all, Ron DeSantis has a shot of winning a general election, I believe. In my opinion. That's not good. You don't have to be an expert in anything. All you have to do is find a qualified, unbiased expert. Yeah, the plurality of science, right? Because like one expert might know what they're talking about. One climate expert who has studied climate science their entire life could all of a sudden just say, because of some biases that they have, some preconceived biases, switch. So it's just like where the consensus of like the data that is going, like where is this taking you? Where are the majority of people? Like the International Governmental Panel on Climate Scientists, tens of thousands of climate scientists who worked and gathered decades and decades of data, came to that conclusion. Like this didn't materialize because like out of nowhere is what I'm trying to say. It can be hard. I think there's definitely different levels of it. Me discussing politics with my friend, I would probably sometimes fall on the appeal to authority, to be honest, but when I read papers or books, I find myself questioning everything all the time and sometimes come away feeling like I know less about the world than I originally did. It's also why academics also sound like they speak in riddles, think, or appear to sit on the fence a lot. Well, yeah, because like, the whole point is to be like, well, I don't know. If you don't know, you don't know, and most of the time you don't know. Like... I'm only an expert at my hobbies, true. Listen, the only thing I'm a pure expert on is streaming, okay? That I can do. DeSantis is good at listening to the loudest voices in his party and regurgitating it in a more boring form is what makes him dangerous. Yeah, and he's also a little bit better at understanding the levers and how to work this government. He's more effective. He's more dangerous.
Trump, he's a more normal Republican, even if ideologically they're the same, even if the threat that they pose to democracy is about the same, give or take.
No,
they are more and more drawn.
No, they're not. No. DeSantis is 100% more dangerous. Yeah.
Onto Ron DeSantis. And even the GOP base, who is glued to Fox News, is changing their tune as well. So Fox News, at least their digital video thing, their Netflix, whatever that is, they ran a segment where they spoke to GOP voters in Maricopa County, Arizona, and almost all of them, aside from a few exceptions, said they prefer DeSantis to Trump. Take a look.
Yes.
I don't want him to. I like what he stands for. I like what he does, but he upset too many people, and he upset him really bad. So I don't think he's good for the party.
He needs to get back in.
What? Something about money? I don't know what that means. Hey, ADT, I like pie. I miss you in the mornings. I hope you're doing well. I'm sorry, my friend. Unfortunately, work is work, and here we are. I'm glad you're here, my friend. Thank you. I'm doing all right.
He already had gained that respect from all the world leaders and finished what he, started.
It's too bad that he did what he did do and was fought the whole way along on darn near everything that he did, but that's what happened, so...
What?
I'd like to see him not run.
If he did, I would vote for him, but I would not recommend he runs. I voted for Trump both times, and I love him. I think he was a good candidate, but I think his time has passed.
I couldn't care less about President Trump, personally. I'd prefer somebody different, but if he is the nominee, I'll probably vote for him.
Then, like, functionally, it doesn't matter, right? Like, I mean, I'm sure I don't care about him, but it's not gonna change. I'm still gonna vote for him. What? Okay.
Well, I voted for him for my very first time. I voted for him. I don't think it'll be best for our country for him to run for re-election. I'm thankful for everything that he's done.
But what? You're gonna vote for him again?
I think that our Republican Party needs to be united.
At this point, he's a little too polarizing, and I think that there are candidates out there, Republican candidates obviously, that maybe be able to pull in people that he would lose to be able to change this.
I would like to see, Governor DeSantis or someone like that, some new blood in the race.
DeSantis, run for president, and if he wants to, then he can pick up Donald as a vice president.
We're from Florida. we're big fans of DeSantis on this one. He seems to be much more common sense and able to communicate better to both sides.
Oh my God.
To get those people back that switch.
He's done a good job at everything he's tried to do, despite all, it's not all just what he says. It doesn't just happen like that. I believe he's done a good job with a lot of things, and that's just my personal beliefs.
I really like DeSantis.
I believe he's done a lot of good job about the things. Yeah. Cool. Can you name a policy that you like? And follow-up question. If you can name a policy that DeSantis implemented that you like, explain to me how that policy improved Florida.
I think he can unify the party, and I think he's a fighter and a leader, and we need both.
He's like a no-nonsense kind of guy, kind of like Trump is. And I really appreciate that. I don't need a politician to get up there and smile and tell me a couple lies. I'd like someone that speaks the truth, and I really feel like DeSantis would...
Oh man, the irony. Oh man, the irony. The irony. I just want somebody that's no nonsense and tells me the truth. Voted for Trump twice. Maybe he's not the entertaining for them and he'll just be ignored. I don't know. I don't know. I think he's popular. I think he has a shot.
Would be a good option.
100% DeSantis. There's no question about it.
Well, I'm a DeSantis fan as well. Donald Trump had a great run. I thought he was a great president while he was president. After the fact, I think we've seen a lot of divisiveness that's come from things, and I wouldn't vote for him in a primary, but the policy that he was able to do, I would probably vote for him in an election, but not a primary.
One legend was
right, so you're still going to vote for him. Like,
so, look, it's not a foregone conclusion yet, but I think that more and more we're seeing that the GOP's base has chosen a new sweaty authoritarian fascist to migrate to. They found a new demagogue, and that individual is Ron DeSantis. Now, what we saw ultimately is that these are loyal Republican voters. They're vote red until they're dead, but during the GOP primary, they are going to make their voice heard, and they're going to opt for Ron DeSantis. But I mean, if Trump wins the primary, they'll go for Donald Trump begrudgingly. But more and more, they're...
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Like, I think this is naive. This should be bad. There should be a alarm bell should be going off. Ron DeSantis sells sinkholes. That's true. Policy. What policy did Trump have? Oh, he had policies. They were just bad. Furthermore, I don't think these people could actually name a policy that Trump did. And furthermore, they couldn't describe how it actually benefited the country. Trump didn't do anything. He put up a few dozen flimsy miles of fence and cut taxes to billionaires. He facilitated the downfall of the Supreme Court. Aside from that, he played golf 35% of the time, was in office, and watched TV 10 hours a day. True.
They're turned off by Donald Trump, maybe not necessarily for personal reasons, but because of the effect that he has on the electorate. So here's some reasons that they vocalized here. Trump has upset too many people. I mean, sure, he upset more people, but that's kind of always been consistent with Trump. That was part of the reason why they...
Are you going to stream the January... Oh, ooh, get back here. The January 6th hearings? I don't think so. I don't think so, because that starts at 8 p.m. That starts at 8 p.m. No way. I don't think I can make it that long. But I will send you over... I will send you folks over to somebody who will.
They liked him in the first place, I'd argue, but still, he's upset too many people. He wouldn't be able to unite the Republican Party, and that same person who said that DeSantis could unite the Republican Party. I tend to agree with that person. He's a little too polarizing. Trump's divisive. I mean, it feels weird to hear them say this in 2022. Yes, we've seen the insurrection. Yes, we've seen...
but like, Trump isn't that polarizing. He's their guy. He's their guy. Like, what are you talking about? He's their guy. Oh, you're going to be streaming it? All right, we can just head on over to Alio's channel afterwards. Make sure you start early. Make sure you start like at 7:30, okay? That way I can raid into you.
Seeing the January 6th public hearings, but you're saying this now when Donald Trump has always been this way, but perhaps there was a breaking point. Maybe January 6th was the straw that broke the camel's back. I've talked to a Republican who said that he was all aboard the MAGA train until January 6th. Then he was a little bit introspective and thought, this is where I'm going to draw the line. And that person, at least last time I spoke to them, has kind of migrated towards the left. But, either way, maybe January 6th change some people's minds. You're going to have a percentage of the GOP base that will never abandon Donald Trump.
Yeah,
but more and more.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know if the January 6th hearings are moving a lot of Trump people, right? Like, maybe a couple, but I don't think that these hearings are moving people who are core Trump supporters, like core base. They're not going to be moved. I mean, like, yeah, if you're a diehard Trump fan of Trump, nothing is going to get you through. Nothing is going to get through. Right.
The people who were susceptible to abandoning Trump are jumping off of that train, and it's because they have somebody who's more similar to Trump. But all of the weaknesses that Trump has, you know, that's corrected with Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis is more charismatic than Donald Trump, even if Trump is able to entertain people. You know, I think that in terms of ideology, DeSantis can communicate a more cohesive vision of fascism for the GOP base, and that's why they like him. Reasons why they like DeSantis additionally include that he has more crossover appeal, which I think is actually true. You know, we saw with him copying the dictator of Hungary, Viktor Orban, with his Don't Say Gay law. You know,
right, cult members. Yeah, it's a cult. It's a death cult.
Speak out of both sides of his mouth. On one hand, he'll sign legislation that demonizes gay people, but on another hand, he'll say, oh, well, we're going to protect gay people. There are enough people, enough normie voters in this country that will fall for that will be duped by that and not know. There's normie Democrats in the state of Florida that sided with Ron DeSantis over the Don't Say Gay law because he was able to successfully market that as just, oh, this is about parental rights and education. Now, ignore the fact that when it comes to education, this is the same governor who's banning math books citing critical race theory, but the way that he's able to control the narrative, I think that GOP voters see value in that. And regardless if you love or hate Ron DeSantis, he is effective at doing that, unfortunately. Also, he can unify the party. That person said, as I stated earlier, and I think that that's actually accurate. You'll see the anti-Trump wing of the party, as small as it may be, the Liz Cheneys, the Adam Kinzingers of the world, come together with the MAGA chuds like Marjorie Greene and support Ron DeSantis. So, you know, when it comes to me, I genuinely don't know who is more destructive between Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump.
Hands down. That's not even a question. I wouldn't blink an eye on that one. I won't blink an eye saying Ron DeSantis is actually more dangerous. Hands down. I mean, like, no question. No hesitation, I would say. No hesitation. Ron DeSantis is much more dangerous.
Trump certainly is a clear and present danger to democracy, and he would be bold enough to actually just stay in power in perpetuity if he's able to do that.
Yeah. The problem is Ron DeSantis would do the same thing and has authoritarian tendencies, but will actually enact these things. Ron DeSantis is scarier. He's actually pushing legislation. Trump is just a puppet. Yeah, something like that. But the point is, I think Ron DeSantis is more dangerous. 100%.
After January 6th. Like, once he takes back power, he's not going to give that up. So that's certainly a problem. But Ron DeSantis is much, much more savvy. He doesn't put his foot in his mouth every 5 minutes. He's more covert in implementing his authoritarianism. Like when he constructs a new fascist institution in Florida, such as election police, to monitor election integrity, he is able to sell that in a way to voters that calms their nerves, and they don't think, oh, well, this seems a little bit suspicious. You just told us that we had a really safe election and there was no fraud in the state of Florida. So, you know, you're creating this election police unit that you control and seems sus, but I guess you explained it well. Like, he's able to
savvy
have that plausible deniability that Trump just doesn't have. But make no mistake about it, when it comes to policy, I think that Ron DeSantis could do more damage, but just when it comes to the danger that he poses to democracy, you can argue honestly that Ron DeSantis is a greater threat to democracy because he's able to sell authoritarianism to voters just more effectively than Donald Trump. So I don't know. I don't know when it comes to who is more destructive for the country between DeSantis and Trump. I think they're both terrible. Either way, you know, you can't expect GOP voters to opt for someone who's normal. they're going to choose someone who is fascistic, who's authoritarian, and the alternative to the fascists in the Republican Party is some sort of a psychopathic warmonger like Liz Cheney. So either way, they're going to pick someone who is horrible. What matters for me is that the Democratic Party get their shit together and come up with somebody who could counter Ron DeSantis or Donald Trump. But if nothing changes and it's DeSantis versus Biden, I think it's a foregone conclusion that DeSantis would win, assuming he's able to maintain this momentum and become the leader of the Republican Party.
I think DeSantis does have a shot at beating a Biden ticket if they are so stupid and run Biden again. I think he might actually have a shot. That's right. Whoever gets the nomination for GOP, the registered voters will vote for that person regardless. They're more. That is more likely to be the case. Trump has been given the same talking point 700 times in a row. DeSantis is not that much in love with himself. Trump is a bigger. DeSantis is currently pushing laws, actually legislating. Trump is a bigger figure for the sheep, but one is more dangerous in reality. The one actually being a motivator for the right wing, DeSantis would win. I think so. I think DeSantis could have a shot at actually winning a general election should the Democratic Party decide that they're just going to run Joe Biden again.
But when it comes to Donald Trump, I still think that he could beat Joe Biden. But is Trump weaker against Joe Biden? Yes, I think that's undeniable at this point. So, either way, it's interesting to see this dynamic change. But really, Ron DeSantis is the same shitty politician, just in a new package. And that's kind of what GOP voters want right now. So, this is really interesting. One element of this story that I enjoy is just knowing how angered and triggered Donald Trump is that DeSantis is cucking him. There was a story in, I think, Vanity Fair that talked about how Trump was so outraged by Ron DeSantis growing in popularity that he considered announcing his 2024 presidential run in front of DeSantis's house. So talk about petty. That goes to show you.
Yeah, but whatever. So many people would rather the Republicans keep winning until the left actually provide a candidate. Yeah, but we don't have time for that. We don't have that option. Electorally speaking, our job is to stop fascist authoritarians. Our job is to do whatever we can to put the stop on this authoritarian party, the GOP. The GOP is just incompatible with democracy. The GOP can and will implement the GOP can and will implement an authoritarian theocratic state. I believe somebody the other day called it Christo-fascist. I hate to say it, but the only person I can think of who could go head to head with DeSantis is Gavin Newsom. I mean, I'll vote for Newsom before I vote for I'll vote for Newsom over DeSantis. Like, no shot. No 2 seconds about it. I'm just saying the reality. I'm trying to stop the fascists. You got it. Yeah, like I'm at the point where electorally speaking, like that's if that's tool is on the table, I'm going to use it, right? The Republican Party just cannot continue to win elections, okay? That's just flat, that's just full stop. Republicans cannot continue to win elections. Every time they win elections, more and more bad shit happens, okay? And they're not going to stop. Trump is an interesting character because he is, for lack of a better word, outrageous, and I think the particular looseness makes him good at mobilizing people often to vote, but would be on the red side if they did. Ordinary politicians tend to be quite bad at it because non-voters are turned off by the system. People are seen to embrace into the political sphere. Yep, I agree with that. That's one of the factors that gave him an edge in 2016 originally.
How threatened Trump is by Ron DeSantis. So either way, this is an interesting thing to watch when it comes to the horse race element of this, but just in terms of the effect it'll have on democracy, either one of these two lunatics is going to be a disaster for democracy. But that's the state of American politics. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. I don't think that Ron DeSantis is a foregone conclusion yet, but I do believe that the wind is blowing in that direction, and anyone who denies his momentum within the GOP at this point is in denial. Trump is losing ground, and this is really the first instance where I think that that is tangible. You could palpably feel the way that Trump is losing his grip on the Republican Party. And even if I hate DeSantis, I still love to see Trump lose his power.
Yeah, but that's not I have to disagree with Mike here, with Figueroa. I have to disagree. Like, being not gleeful, but like, it almost feels like there's a drop of guard when you use language like this. It almost feels like there's a slight, like, little drop of the guard with language like this, and thinking that, like, oh, okay, well, Trump is losing his grip, and it's now going to DeSantis. But it's like, no, that's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. Okay. Is Newsom seriously someone the Dems are talking about running? I'm behind on news. I don't know. He might. He might. I would certainly think that. I don't even know if they should run Newsom, but certainly slightly better than Joe Biden. I don't know. The Dems control the power right now. How does this make reps losing anything other than performance? Yeah. Well, Democrats, like, aren't getting their shit together. Yeah. I agree with you.
Within the GOP.
I disagree. I disagree. I will bet my love of 538 that Newsom will announce. 538, like the polling. Oh, and it's actually not that much love? That's funny. It's like two loves. I know it'll never happen, but I hope Buttigieg gets a shot one day. I mean, he had a shot. I just don't think he was that, like, inspiring. Or he just doesn't have, like, the national profile. All right. We got to talk about this just for a split second. Biden tests positive for COVID, experiencing mild symptoms. President Biden tested for positive for COVID and experiencing mild symptoms. The White House said in a statement, Biden is being treated by the antiviral Paxlovid and is fully vaccinated and twice boosted. Right. So the idiot earlier was saying he was like quad boosted or some nonsense, and twice boosted. Said the statement said the White House coordinator Dr. Ashish Jha said Biden is tired, has a runny nose and dry cough. Jha said Biden felt fine when he went to bed but didn't sleep well. Biden canceled a planned event for Thursday in Pennsylvania due to his diagnosis, but sought to portray a sense of business as usual as he isolated in the White House residence. In a video released Thursday, the president is seen standing in the balcony of the White House residence in a blazer and a collared shirt. I'm doing well, getting a lot of work done, and continuing to getting it done. In the meantime, thanks for your concern and keep the faith. It's going to be okay. Anyways. Perhaps AOC will have to step up. No, I don't think she's going to run. There's actually some studies into populist authoritarians that suggest... No, she could. She's eligible to run. We've been over this. The math checks out. She would be able to run. It's just that I don't think she is going to. there's actually some study into populist authoritarians that suggest they have a kind of built-in flaw of being short bursts, a kind of political flash in the pan or flash in the plan, if you want to joke for it. Ha! But yeah, there's definitely a bit of that in Trump, in that people get quickly tired of strongmen because they often don't deliver what they say, and they need to consolidate power fast to keep it, right? And if that doesn't happen, it all kind of falls apart, which is exactly what happened. Carmela Harris? That's funny. Miss Harris. I'm not trying to hate. No, is it Miss Harris or Mrs. I don't know. VP Harris. Vice President Harris. To you. Watch out for the K-Hive. Oh man, the Twitter K-Hive. Oof. A fascist fallacy too. Biden's positive case was detected as a part of a largely scheduled test. Following his test, Biden shared that he had experienced symptoms last night. Biden's last known negative test was July 19th. According to the White House, the following day, he traveled to Massachusetts for a climate change event. Jean-Pierre said that Biden wasn't tested before he went to the mass event because he has a regular testing schedule and wasn't experiencing symptoms until last night. So, yeah, this must have been incredibly recent. Damn, that's so strange. To experience symptoms so quickly. That's just weird. Oh, James is he got it on my birthday, July 19th? Well, I did not know. Wait, did I say happy birthday to you? Wait, when is July 19th? I remember somebody came into stream and was saying that it was their birthday. Well, happy belated birthday. I did? Okay, cool. Alright, cool. Whew. Don't want to forget that. Oh, in the MR chat. Oh, okay, cool. Yes, alright, cool. Whew. Well, officially, happy belated birthday. Okay. So we did this. I have to sleep now. Good night. No problem. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate that.
These new climate measures. And when will the next generation of EV batteries hit the market?
I'm from Massachusetts. Yeah, I don't know.
From the Beckett Square Climate Corner, your go-to place for international and
I could have had it before.
news. I'm Becky Hogue, a science writer. Today, it's Friday, July 15th. Let's jump right into the news you need to start your day. We've got another short episode this week. I think this has been my shortest news week so far. Don't get used to it. But it's also mostly good news, so hopefully it'll bring you with a good mood into the weekend. But let's start with some extreme weather events, which are not good news. As a heat wave continues to sit over large swaths of Europe, wildfires continue to pop up. We talked about over 100 fires burning in Portugal. Now 800 people in Portugal have been evacuated, and temperatures there are still hitting 115 degrees Fahrenheit or 46.3 degrees Celsius in some parts. France and Spain are also battling fires now. Some campsites in France had to be
Yeah, if you want like resources, just ask James. They'll point you in the direction. Where's the other person at now? They probably left after like we tore their whatchamacallit with their sources to shreds. I don't know. Maybe they're here, maybe they're not.
evacuated. In Asia, Turkey's battling a forest fire of its own, which keeps getting picked up by strong gusts of wind. Many parts of Asia are also going through a heat wave. People in southern China are dying of heat stroke as temperature hits 104 degrees Fahrenheit or 40 degrees Celsius. The heat wave there is expected to continue through the weekend. Imagine if the temperature in the UK hit 40 degrees Celsius. Well, back to Europe, the UK Meteorology Office extended its amber extreme heat alert to next week as temperatures could get up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit, which would be considered a new record. Britain's first heat wave emergency declaration is being considered. Let's look at some climate victories. Germany released a new package of climate measures to drop emissions in its transportation and building sectors to move closer to carbon neutrality by 2045. The country had released a climate plan last year that had different targets to reduce these sector emissions, but it proceeded to blow through those sectors' emissions for that year. So Germany's stepping up. New measures involve boosting the installation of electric vehicle charging stations, expanding public transport, and building more bike lanes. It does not include a lower maximum speed limit though, which is a great way to reduce emissions and fuel use. It does encourage and invest in digitization so more people can work from home. Meanwhile, it's mandating all new installed heating systems to be able to use at least 65% renewable energy by 2024. The government plans to renovate commercial and residential buildings to be more energy efficient too. Over in the US, advanced EV batteries are soon moving from the research phase to the mass production phase. These batteries allow EVs to charge in minutes and travel hundreds of miles between charges for much lower cost than the batteries now. The factory operations are limited in scale, but in a few years, these batteries could make EVs be easily price comparable with gas-powered cars. One company leading the charge is QuantumScape, which is backed by Volkswagen, Bill Gates, and several other Silicon Valley bigwigs. It expects to have a factory up and running by 2024. Another is SES AI, which was developed out of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, or MIT, and backed by General Motors, Hyundai, and the Chinese automaker Geely and SAIC, and the South Korean battery maker SK Innovation. It expects to begin mass producing its batteries by 2025. We'll have to see if all these companies produce products as good as they sound. And in the agriculture sector, electric tractors are beginning to be adopted in rural Oregon. Agricultural equipment is a $38 billion industry in the US alone, and companies like SolarTrack and Monarch are trying to electrify the market, rolling out small tractors intended for use in vineyards and berry and hobby farms. It's tricky to get these farmers to switch away from their trusted brand names like John Deere. Also, electric tractors are still much more expensive, but the amount farms have to spend on tractor fuel might make a difference. A farm with 12 tractors can spend $2,000 to $3,000 on gas a day with the current gas prices. A recent study out of Oregon State University found that the amount of money spent on fuel a year could result in electric tractors being price comparable with gas-powered models. It's just the cost is upfront. Time for a climate fail. Copper supply is becoming the latest issue in the race to clean energy. It's needed for EVs, battery storage, renewable energy, and transmission and grid infrastructure. A new study by S&P Global found that copper demand is expected to double by 2025 under current mining and recycling trends. The company worries there's not enough copper available to use to make for the clean energy transition. This further emphasizes the need to formalize a recycling industry, better utilizing copper use, and maybe search for alternative metals. Let's finish with one more climate victory story. Illinois is turning 11 retired coal plants into solar and energy storage hubs. 6 of the sites will have battery storage and solar, and 5 others will just have battery storage. The energy storage facilities will mainly be owned by the companies Vistra and NRG Energy. I see what you did there. Property tax values are expected to double around the sites. The projects will increase job opportunities in the area, bolster the tax base, and, of course, generate clean energy. Specifically, they'll produce about 68 megawatts of solar, which is expected to power about 10,000 homes, and 9 megawatts of battery storage. And that was your short climate recap for Friday, July 15th. If you like the work I do, please follow this podcast, give it a 5-star rating, leave a review, and consider checking out the Beckosphere Climate Corner YouTube channel. Remember to talk about the climate crisis every single day and support your local news organizations. Bye for now.
Based. All right. Yeah, I missed this. I missed that episode, so make sure you go forth and do the thing. All right, let's talk about this. House passes legislation to enshrine the right to contraception in federal law. All right. Let's talk about our theocratic fascist friend. In regards to contraception, it is not a natural right fundamental to our nature as human beings to use contraception. What? It's also not a constitutional right. It's not a right. It's not a kind of right at all. Does this Matt Walsh have kids? Unfortunately. He's got 4 of them. Poor kids. So they don't want you to have they don't want you to have access to abortions, and they don't want you to guarantee the right to access to contraceptives. I think we can pick up what's being put down here. It is if you don't want child support. Yeah, well, my dude has some fried circuits up there. No, he's doing this on purpose. There is a reason. He's an authoritarian fuck. That's what he is. He's an authoritarian fuck. Who is comfortable with that. The same goes for Ben Shapiro and all these other theocratic fascists. Who can and will implement a authoritarian theocratic state should these people win power. This guy makes my blood boil. He should. He should. So yeah, okay. Now that we've set the stage here. The House voted 228 to 195, largely along party lines, Thursday to pass legislation to codify the right to contraception nationwide, seeking it, to protect it from the potential Supreme Court intervention. Because clearly, you cannot trust the Supreme Court at this point, because they have lied. The Right to Contraception Act, sponsored by Representative Kathy Manning of Democrat of North Carolina, would establish a right in federal law for individuals to obtain and use contraceptives. It would also affirm a right for healthcare providers to provide contraceptives and allow the Justice Department and entities harmed by contraception restrictions to seek enforcement in the right court. Representative Kathy Castor of Florida said the United States is facing a perilous time where an extremist Supreme Court and GOP are rolling back our rights. True. Very true. Democratic leaders said they were spurred to act by Justice Clarence Thomas' concurring opinion in the ruling overturning Roe v. Wade, who wrote that the Supreme Court should also, well, I don't know if they should, but he wrote that they could, should the implication was on his concurring opinion was that if the right case came along, that they should overturn these things, or can overturn these things. And judging by the fact that the Supreme Court justices have lied under oath about Roe v. Wade, I see no reason to trust them. Who wrote that the Supreme Court should also revisit decisions like the Griswold v. Connecticut, which prohibited states from banning contraceptives and, quote, correct the error it made. Representative Ann Custer said that the overturning of Roe v. Wade was a wake-up call. Oh, really? Now it's a wake-up call? Now? That Congress should not leave other rights like that of contraception up to chance, and saying that it's none of the government's business. Yes, so do something about it. Only 8 Republicans voted with all 220 Democrats on the bill. Liz Cheney of Wyoming, Brian Fitzpatrick of Pennsylvania, Anthony Gonzalez of Ohio, John Katko of New York, Adam Kinzinger of Illinois, Nancy Mace of South Carolina, Maria Salazar of Florida. I think I voted for her when I was there. I'm pretty sure I voted for her. I'm pretty sure. It's so hard not to be a doomer with all this shit going on. I don't blame you. So what I say is that since the feeling of doomer is valid, 100%, just kind of channel that and use that. The Federalist Society judges are getting to work and bring these cases before the SCOTUS as soon as possible. Yeah, I'm sure. With that call to action from Clarence Thomas, I'm sure that if we see a scenario where the Democrats fail to maintain the House and the Senate, and consequently, because I do believe that what happens in the midterm is going to have a cascading effect on the 2024 election. That's just my opinion. That's just the way I see things. So far, I haven't been too far off the the mark. But I believe that if the Democrats get a shellacking, and Yella King, how's it going? If the Democrats get a shellacking in the midterms and it's bad, should that scenario play out, the 2024 election is not looking good. And if that happens, they've got checkmate, right? They've got checkmate. The Supreme Court, the House, the Senate, the presidency. And unlike the Dems, they will not be afraid to use whatever tools and levers given to them. Please vote for the lesser of you. I don't mean to vote for Republicans. Voting is free, safe, and legal. Yeah, just don't leave that tool on the table is what I'm saying. Save aside the obvious necessity for direct action and mutual aid. That's not mutually exclusive, right? If you have a tool in the toolbox, use it. Don't leave it on the table. Don't leave it on the table. And I can't stress this enough. Every time Republicans actually win elections and actually have power, it's never good. It's never good, and these people aren't going to give it up. If they win elections, they're not going to give it up. Should the scenario come to fruition where they have all three, where they have checkmate, all three branches of the Supreme Court, they already have a supermajority, the House and the Senate, and the presidency, it's GG. It's GG. Yeah, Republicans will be ruthless. Unlike the Dems, Republicans will absolutely be ruthless. They will have absolutely no quarrels, no sense of process or whatever. They don't give a shit about that. They will 100% implement a authoritarian theocratic state. They 100% can and have the absolute option to do so. So do not underestimate these people. The Republican Party is incompatible with democracy. Period. Period. The Republican Party needs to be swept. In an ideal scenario, they just need to be wiped out completely. Democrats are spreading fear and misinformation to score political points, said Representative Kathy McMorris Rogers of Washington, the top Republican on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Nah, not really. Not really at all. Not really at all. She called it a Trojan horse for more abortions. How does protecting the right to contraception, protecting abortions? But whatever, it doesn't have to make sense. Doesn't have to make sense. The bill would now go to the Senate, where a companion version has been introduced by Senator Ed Markey, Mazi Hirono, and Tammy Duckworth, but it's unclear the measure will have the 60 votes required to break a likely Republican filibuster. The legislation defines contraceptive as any drug, device, or biological product intended to use for the prevention of pregnancy, which whether specifically intended to prevent pregnancy or for other health needs, that is legally marketed under the FDA, under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, such as oral contraceptive, long-lasting reversible contraceptives, emergency contraceptives, the Plan B, internal and external condoms, injectables, vaginal barrier methods, transdermal patches, and vaginal rings, or other contraceptives. In other words, your basic contraceptives that you can find at the store, right? Like at the Walgreens or CVS. That always makes it out that people say that Dems are the fearmongers, such projection. Oh yeah, somebody said it best, and I always forget which one, but I believe it was Memo for the Record who said that the GOP gaslight, obstruct, and project. That's it. That's them. The GOP, the purpose of the GOP, or the GOP's quintessential strategy is gaslight, obstruct, and project, right? And every single GOP accusation turns out to be a confession, is the other saying that I've kind of come to conclusion, that I've come to agree with, right? Every GOP accusation just ends up being a confession. Libs may be libs, but at least they aren't fash for the most part. Yeah, like the only times like it gets problematic is like when they try to tone police or like try to play civility politics. You can't play civility politics with fascists. That is a naive mistake. You cannot play self-reports as you will. I think that's one of the short-sighted or shortcomings that some think that they can work within the system to stop these people when they're not interested. They're not interested. They're not interested. Authoritarian fucks are not interested, and they will roll you over if they have to. It's kind of like how every time the Democrats attempt to compromise, it only ends up benefiting the Republicans, right? Because they're not interested in that. They will take and take and take and take and take. They will use whatever tools that are given to them, and they will cast aside any process or any semblance of that if they can, and they will. That's the difference. But that being said, I would rather, in an electoral scenario, I would rather end up it being a fight between, it would be, in a ideal scenario, I would like it to be a kind of left party versus the Dems, right? That's the kind of fight I would like to have. At this point in time, like, Republicans just need to go. Conservatism needs to be squashed. And that means... Yeah, that means that you need to squash them by any means necessary, electorally speaking. It is frustrating. It is incredibly frustrating. So yeah, anybody who is actively working against the Republican Party, by all means, they are my friends. They are my friends. Anyone who's actively working against the Republican Party, and I need all of you to spread the word as far and wide as possible to the dangers of the Republican Party, and do what you have to do to squash them. If you have the ability to participate in primaries, if you have the ability to phone bank, if you have the ability to get out there or organize, these are only in the parameters. I'm only speaking about the parameters of electoralism. If you have that ability, then do so. Spread the word far and wide. The Republican Party needs to be squashed, ended, period. And if there's something that you have the capability of doing, whether it be phone banking, text banking, whether it be participating in the primaries, voting, whatever tool that you have at your disposal, and you can deploy that, then do so. That being said, mutual aid is incredibly important. Get to know your neighbors. Community build. It's so important. And so it's so important because we're missing. We can't forget the other parts of the equation that are necessary, and we can't be fighting multi-front battles at the same time. We got to focus, and we got to try to pick up W's where we can, because if not, it's not looking good, folks. It's not looking good. We got to the left needs to pick up W's where it can, and needs to push where it can, and needs to leverage and wedge where it can. Failure to coalesce and failure to stop this authoritarian train that's on the tracks, and it's moving this way, and it's moving this way with very clear conductors and very clear passengers. It needs to be stopped. That's it. That's the beginning and the end of things. As far as electoralism goes for me, the purpose is to stop this authoritarianism. The Republican Party needs to be squashed. It is incompatible with democracy. Period. Full stop. And as long as they continue to win elections, as long as they continue to hold even an ounce of power, things will be bad. Things will get I can guarantee things will be bad. Versus at least if it ends up being that there's a left party that squares off with the Democratic Party, sure, that would be the ideal scenario. But that's not what we're looking at yet. So do what you got to do. Community build, and if you have the ability, participate in your primaries, so on and so forth. I mean, I think this is pretty self-evident, but that's just my thoughts on just my thoughts on the tools that we have at our disposal at this time. Because it's not looking good, folks. And time is ticking. Time is ticking. The vote came 2 days after the House voted to codify a right to same-sex marriage with the support of 47 Republicans. Representative Debbie Lesko said Democrats are pursuing an extreme abortion-on-demand agenda. Of course, the abortion-on-demand, there's no evidence to suggest that. And the point is the argument is always bodily autonomy. You do not have to give up your bodily autonomy to sustain anybody else. Representative Kat Kamek of Florida said the bill violates religious rights. Fuck you. And called it a bill by Democrats who invoke states that they cannot name banning contraceptives. Yes, you can't just do that because you cannot impose yourself on other people. That's the point, and that's why the federal government should get involved and provide broader protections for everybody. So people like you, Kat Kamek or whatever, can't impose your garbage on people. That's the whole point of this. She's making the argument for us right now in real time. She's making the argument for us in real time. And what religious rights are you talking about? So you're going to have people working at pharmacies denying, denying condoms to people? Fuck out of here. You're going to have people working at pharmacies that, because of some religious gobbledygook, deny, basic, things like a condom or Plan B or the birth control. That is just wild. That is just wild. But, yeah, that's the goal. A theocratic authoritarian state. That is the Republican Party. Do not forget that. Okay? Do not forget that. Moving on to Georgia. Most abortions are now illegal in the state of Georgia. The state's so-called heartbeat bill is now law after the court rulings on Wednesday allowed it to take effect. The law bans most abortions after a heartbeat is detected around 6 weeks of pregnancy, following the suit of the other states as well. Democratic nominee Governor Stacey Abrams was among the first to weigh in. There might be some who say I'm angry, some who say I'm impassioned. I am enraged. You should be. Just after the court rulings allowed Georgia's heartbeat law to take into effect, Abrams said she'll work to repeal the law if elected. We also know that when women of Georgia speak up, we can reverse that law. That law is going to be put people in danger. I agree. On Wednesday, a federal appeals court said the law could take effect immediately after the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals ruled earlier that the law was constitutional. We are overjoyed that the court has paved the way for the implementation of Georgia's Life Act. There's nothing life about it. Kemp emerged from his office at the state capitol to applaud the court's decision. The law will ban most abortions in Georgia after 6 weeks of pregnancy, leaving exceptions for rape and incest and when the pregnancy threatens the mother's life. As mothers navigate pregnancy, birth, and parenthood or alternative options to parenthood like adoption, because we all know how good that system is, Georgia's public, private, and nonprofit sectors stand ready to provide the resources they need to be safe, healthy, and informed. All right. Anyone who is capable of birth is now just simply a birthing pod. That is literally your only value. That is your only value. If you have the capability of being pregnant, that is your only value, is to be a birthing pod. Roswell's mother, Kayla Joseph, showed that she agrees with the governor. That is truly an answered prayer. An answered prayer. She said finding faith prevented her from getting an abortion several years ago. I was indoctrinated into believing religious gobbledygook, and now I'm made a decision that I may or may not have wanted. I was actually going to get an abortion with my daughter, who's now 3 years old. Thank the Lord he led me to save her, said Joseph, because I believe God has placed every person on this earth for a reason, no matter how we got here. But others spoke, saying banning abortions at 6 weeks before most women even know they're pregnant puts them and their future at risk. Correct. That's the goal. That is the goal. Buff Dragon, how's it going? Praise Jesus. But I just feel like you should not be able to govern a woman's body. It just doesn't make sense, and that's their body. True. It is very dehumanizing. True. Remember, if you have the capability of being pregnant, then exactly, you're not a person anymore. You're just simply a birthing pod. That's the goal. You're just simply a birthing pod. Future, what? Career, what? Oh, you thought you were going to school to get an education and try to get yourself into higher get yourself above water, trying to get yourself an education or career or whatever plans you may have had for yourself in the future. What? Nah. You're a birthing pod. That's the only value you have. Let's get a quick shout out for Riverboat Jack. They're phenomenal. Thanks for reminding me, Echo Resto Dragon. It's very dehumanizing and it's completely taking away somebody's autonomy. Yep, that's the point. That's the point. Yeah, I just can't imagine why people, why this generation doesn't want kids. I just can't imagine. No, I can't put my finger on it. said student Trinity Shaw. It's not cool. That's one way of putting it, but yeah, it's completely dehumanizing because that's the point. The point is, hey, listen, if you've got a womb or uterus and you have the capability of birth, then that's the only value. That's basically what the conservative ideology states. Period. And you could see it in the religious dogma too. You could see it in the religious aspect too. Like I said, this is a direct result. Republicans won the House and Senate, and they own the governorship in Georgia. This is what happens when they win, right? This is what happens. Well, this is what happens when they have power, is what I'm saying. This is what happens. It's crazy how it seems to have taken people this long to realize the Idiocracy was a documentary set from the future. Oh no, we're past Idiocracy. Like, never mind, like the just like the problematic aspects of Idiocracy. Let's just take that aside and just kind of focus on the core like message of the movie. We're past that. We passed that years ago. Yeah, we're on a whole new level. Yeah, like, I mean, think about it. Think about it, folks. We've got people like our friend who showed up earlier, attempting to go against the entire consensus of the scientific community when it comes to climate change. We've got people who live in a literal, completely divorced from reality fantasy land, okay? Who accept things like vaccine, like anti-vax talking points. Completely. They eat it wholeheartedly. Who accept things like theories, who are so divorced from reality that they just kind of accept it and create this alternate dimension for themselves. I mean, like, here's an example. I'll show you. Look at this. Yeah, it's like, but willful dissociation, but like, man, the anti-intellectualism and the willingness to just accept nonsense. This guy has 5.78 million subscribers. Proof that the Great Reset is happening. 1.1 million views. How we beat the Great Reset. Nine minutes ago. I used to love him when he went. Then he went off the rails. Russell, what happened? He realized that he could make more money and more clicks, and then sell more shows and whatever weird cult stuff he's got going on there, he realized he could sell that. I don't want to live on this planet anymore. I don't blame you. Tell me he has a Mandela effect video on that. Yeah. I mean, that's my point. We're way past like the concept of like idiocracy or whatever, the main message or main theme of the story. When we've got and when we idolize people like this, speaking in this manner, I mean, like Joe Rogan also, like just gross levels of misinformation, and people watch. He's the biggest podcast. The way things are going, Mars is F2. Well, I don't know about that. We're nowhere near like the capability of even setting up a viable colony on Mars, and I wouldn't want to too. We can't even manage Earth. We're gonna mess. If we had the capability today to go to another planet, we would just mess that up too. We would just mess that up too. We have been lied to. Right, somebody will find the new oil, whatever it is, minerals that are valuable, whatever. Yeah. Or exploit, in some way, shape, or form. I mean, Elon Musk is already... He didn't he mention that something to the effect of like, oh yeah, like normal people can go to Mars with me. They'll just be indentured servants. What? Humans are a cancer on this globe. We've done a fine mess of things. Russell Brand has to be on the internet after 2 wives and offending people in real life, and Brand said of Nazis, they did look effing fantastic, let's face it, before he goes... Oh, Jesus Christ. Brand was eventually ejected from the event after GQ editor Dylan Jones confronted Brand with his view that speech was very offensive. Brand replied by saying the Nazi... Jesus. Yeah, like I don't think Russell Brand is like a is like a Nazi. All right, just to be clear, I don't think Russell Brand is a Nazi. I just think he's off in La La Land right now. I think he's off in like another alternate dimension. He's living a different reality, or he has realized at least acting like this gets him a lot of views and money. One of the two, because this is none of what he's saying is based on any empirical evidence or whatever. Like, I mean, I haven't watched this video, but I can tell you right now, this is probably going to be conspiratorial as AF. And I mean that term in a colloquial sense. I know Memo, for the record, gave me shit for this, but I mean that in a colloquial sense, meaning that the concept that he is espousing is based on just nothing. There's no real, evidence. Ah! Jeez. All right, Russell. Tell us.
Protesting, hating the environment. Bloody farmers protesting, hating the environment. What is it? Are farmers all bastards? Or are we seeing the beginning of the Great Reset play out in real time? And to check whether or not that's a reality or a conspiracy theory, because we can never be sure.
What? No, what? No. No, we can be sure. Yo, holy yikes. We can be sure because we can empirically, objectively view things. It either is or it isn't. This is like saying like, oh, I mean, like we could look at the water, and I don't know. I mean, like we could say it's water, but what I'm looking at is I don't know. It's just I don't know. What I'm looking at is clearly a computer screen, but do we really know? Or is it just another conspiracy theory? Jesus Christ.
Let's check what Klaus Schwab, the inventor of the Great Reset, which is something that he says himself, said in 2020.
We have to prepare for a more angry world.
Why? Why have we got to prepare for a more
Okay,
angry
but in what context was he saying that?
world? What's going to happen, Klaus? Like, that's going to make the world more angry? We shouldn't be preparing for that. We should be trying to prevent it. We should be thinking about ways to share resources, empower ordinary people, coming to terms with the fact that some people identify in very progressive ways, some people identify in traditional ways.
And the conservatives are wrong. Yes. Yes. Like, this idea that there's, well, some people are this way. Okay, but they're wrong. Like, how do we compromise, or how do we talk to a swab of the population who literally believes that a election was stolen, despite no evidence to suggest otherwise? How do we talk to a swath of the population that, despite the consensus, the scientific consensus, does not believe in something like global warming?
Globalist culture is being rejected by everybody, that people are feeling disempowered, that no one trusts the agenda of these globalists, that when they say we're doing this for climate change, they don't believe them, that when they say we're doing this because we want equality between races or...
He needs to stop using the word globalist.
genders or sexualities, don't believe them. That it's all demonstrative. It's all phatic, Assat's trickery to prevent ordinary people getting on with their lives and to further centralise corporate power and to make sure that the state operates essentially as the henchmen for corporate interests.
And
okay, but that's not like a conspiracy theory. Like he's making it out like he's discovered some wild truth. And some wild conspiracy theory that, like, power likes to centralize. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Brand. Thank you.
How to prepare? It means to take the necessary action.
Necessary action could mean lockdowns. Necessary action could...
No, you're completely making that up. Like, you're literally just... What is it? Causation doesn't equal correlation. You're putting these clips and then making assumptions out of it. Yeah. We're gonna need something like James Marmot for these kind of VODs. Yeah, like you're putting these random freaking quotes of or clips of Carl Schwab or whatever his name is, and then making it the justification. You're making the inference out of that when who knows what context that was in to begin with. Does that FDL or swing arms about hanging around for videos on like Russell? Yeah, like no, I'm pretty angry because this is nonsense. I hate nonsense.
Mean that we're going to say to the agricultural industry, you can't use these fertilizers.
Well, what? Does Carl Schwab own like every single like government or something like that? This was a decision by the Danish government in Denmark. Jesus Christ. This was a decision made by Denmark. Okay, Carl Schwab had nothing to do with this. How do you know that? What evidence do you have to suggest this?
Anymore, and that might impact the livelihood of these farmers, and they're probably only using these fertilizers anyway because it's the only effective way to turn a profit with the conditions and stipulations that are placed on them.
That's not entirely true. Glad I could make it for part of the stream. See you next time. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I like pie.
Industry industry as a result of other regulations, probably that have come from the WEF or some other globalist-funded body that controls what used to be national or even local
How do you know that?
interests. These kind of things come at a cost.
I don't have too many remedies. The remedies have to be discussed through dialogue by the stakeholders of our global system.
Yeah, who are the stakeholders of the global system? That means like corporate power, state power. These are the stakeholders. In a sense, all of this, you will own nothing and you will be happy. You're not going to eat meat anymore. You're going to eat insects. We're starting to see the consequences of it. You can watch the Great Reset video. It tells you what the plan is. You're not going to own anything. How's that going to happen? Well, we're going to own it. You're not going to be eating meat anymore. How come? Because we're shutting down all the farms. Like, I'm a vegan person, so I don't eat meat, and if it was up to me, then less people would eat meat. In fact, no people would eat meat. But guess what? It ain't up to me. It's up to you what you do with your life. Perhaps in the political space, if we chose, instead of enforcing rules, we could persuade people of our opinion and our views, and maybe people go, yeah, that's the way I want to live, or we'd come to some kind of compromise and consensus.
Okay. Once again, you cannot compromise with people who are living in another reality. And furthermore, you are on the presumption that all of this is being orchestrated on purpose. I don't know that. I don't know that. You still haven't demonstrated how this is the Great Reset. And the Great Reset is happening because a government decided to take an action? What? He still hasn't made that proof. Yeah, has he seen people? People cannot be persuaded. Yeah, not those people.
Because that's how we are evolved to live. We're not evolved to live in accordance with top-down edicts. We're communal, social animals that are supposed to create regulation among one another through consensus.
But I just see the need for such a dialogue.
I see the need for speed. This Top Gun Maverick film is doing so well. Oh, maybe I could be the new Goose. I'm going to unbutton my shirt now. Now we are on a highway to the danger zone.
Good Lord.
That's why I need you all to be locked in your house and take these necessary medicines. It's a danger zone.
And I see the need for action.
What? What? This doesn't make any sense. He's making the implication that, vaccine mandates are an edict from Carl Schwab? Because he's making an impression of Carl Schwab, right? Or whatever his name is. He's making an impression of that. And he's making the implication that he's the one that orchestrated lockdowns? What? Source? It's not even funny. It's annoying. Source? What? Source? References of, okay. Okay, so his source is an article about Sri Lanka switching fertilizer. Nothing here. Nothing here has anything to do with the World Economic Forum. Nothing. That's his source.
Bloody farmers protesting, hating the environment. What is it? Are farmers all bastards, or are farmers were all broke, they'd start selling their about in the news, buying up a lot of farmland at the moment. Simply what they're saying. Their objective is what regulation among one another through consensus.
But I just see the need for such a dialogue.
I see the need for speed. This Top Gun Maverick film is doing so well. Oh, maybe I could be the new Goose. I'm going to unbutton my shirt now. Now we are on a highway to the danger zone. And that's why I need you all to be locked in your house and take these necessary medicines. It's a danger zone.
And I see the need for action.
He's only right about one thing. There is anger coming.
You know me?
I don't know. You know me?
I don't think this was in Sri
Stories
Lanka.
relayed on the mainstream media suggest.
So, I think these were conflated. Some of the images might have been from Sri Lanka. Some of these might have been from the other European country. Then I want to say Denmark.
That the farmers are kind of agitators that just want to use really bad toxic fertilizer for a laugh, man. But actually, when you dig a little deeper into this story, you start to recognize that they're having their rights eroded, they're having their livelihood taken away, and that the agenda of the WEF, the globalists, is not even to have a more organic and ecologically responsible farming system. No, that's simply what they're saying. Their objective is what's going to happen. The farmers will be bankrupted and their land will be purchased by centralized monocultural forces. That's
Okay, but what evidence do you have that this is all being orchestrated by the World Economic Forum? Like, is the World Economic Forum conducting business there? Like, what? How did you extrapolate all this? This makes no sense. Remember, he's providing proof. It's in the title that the Great Reset is happening because governments took measures.
That's what will happen. You can sometimes tell what is intended by what actually happens. Forget what they're saying. Look at what's happening. What's happening? Oh, farmers are all losing their farms. Oh, who's buying up those farms and who's buying up that land? Is anyone famous who you hear about in the news buying up a lot of farmland at the moment?
Bill Gates has been snatching up 242,000 acres of farmland across the U.S., enough to make him the top private farmer.
Across the U.S.? In the video that he's using as a source, it says that he's buying up farmland across the U.S. Hold on, before I eat my hat, maybe...
Landowner in America.
What would it enable people to buy up yet more farmland? I suppose if farmers were all broke, they'd start...
How does this have to do with Sri Lanka? Or Europe? In the, Netherlands. Unbelievable.
Selling their farmland. Oh, and how can we make farmers broke without seeming like we're doing the evil bidding of a Bond villain? Say that they have to change to a fertilizer that won't be cost effective and not give them an interim period to make those adjustments, not achieve a kind of consensus between the market or consumers, as we're commonly known, that we will purchase organic product over a period of time. These kind of things have to be achieved democratically, consensually, with the involvement of the farming community and the whole population.
But okay, so first of all, wouldn't especially with Denmark, wouldn't it by definition, if a government says that, okay, look, we're going to have to do this because of X, Y, and Z, wouldn't that by definition be a edict that was done by a democratically elected government, or at least a government that was put into power by the people? Yeah, I have no idea what he's saying. He's not making any sense because all he's saying is gobbledygook. Did he really do a 180 and is now pandering to the kind of people and ideologies he used to pretend to despise? Kind of. I mean, like, he's positioning himself as some type of, like, kind of populist vibe. Supposedly, like, this anti-establishment vibe. But at the end of the day, I don't think he actually cares about any of this. He's just doing what he has to do for the YouTube views, I guess. This frustrates me to no end. Like, how many pivots and jumps and leaps of logics did we have to do in 5 minutes? Like a conservative moderator? I don't even know if he cares about any of that. To be quite frank, Yellow King. But just in 5 minutes, we've pivoted from, like, okay, the title of the video is proof. Remember, proof that the Great Reset is happening. And like the source of it is some article, some Daily Caller article about the protests in Sri Lanka, because the government decided to do something. And then he also conflates like with the Netherlands. I don't even know if the Netherlands farming protests are for the same reasons, or if they have to do any with each other. Like, and then he tries to like put Karl Schwab as if like that's who's orchestrating this with a source. And then he says like, oh, these things can't be just imposed to us by government. Well, how the fuck did we get government? To my understanding, the Netherlands at least has a elected body. To my understanding, the Netherlands has an elected body. Yeah, and then pivoted to Bill Gates. He's like, well, all these farmers are going bankrupt, so who is going to buy up all their land? And then shows a picture of Bill Gates. And then in that video, in his source, it's saying like, yeah, Bill Gates is buying up farmland here in the US. Nothing to do with Sri Lanka, nothing to do with Netherlands. At least to the evidence that he's presenting. And like, how do we know Bill Gates is even part of his like conspiracy of the Great Reset? Like, as far as I know, I wasn't aware. Yeah, real transcendental Ben Shapiro vibes. Yep. I think he's worse than Ben Shapiro.
They can't be top-down edicts that come from Klaus Schwab, unless the intention, of course, is not to make the farmers ecologically...
Wait. Top-down edicts from Klaus Schwab? Is he the one that's instrumenting all of this? I wasn't aware. Source? I'm gonna need a source on that one, buddy. Remember, the title of the video is proof. Jesus Christ, how do people watch this garbage?
Sound, but to make the farmers economically broke. Often we have to make this transition from thinking we're dealing with conspiracy, because a lot of the time it sounds like a conspiracy.
Because it is.
There's no Great Reset happening. But Klaus Schwab talks about the Great Reset openly. When people say that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, you have to check to see if there are policies being instantiated.
Excellent. Now, how does this have to do with anything? Again?
That lead to that kind of conclusion. So what we're seeing in all of these various trucker protests, agricultural protests in Sri Lanka or the Netherlands...
All these have some... the trucker protest was for a completely different reason. This has nothing to do with the agricultural farmers in the Netherlands, and I don't even know if the Netherlands protest has anything to do with Sri Lanka.
So in Germany, I believe there are comparable protests, is an uprising of people that...
From what?
Dispossessed and disempowered because of globalist edicts, and then the media portrays those uprisings as problematic or as racist or unnecessary or ecologically unsound because their institutional biases are shared with the people that are set to gain.
The United States has appealed to Sri Lanka's politicians to act promptly to resolve their country's economic crisis.
The protests in Sri Lanka are comparable as well. The Sri Lankan farmers are responding again to globalist edicts, top down.
How? Who? God damn it.
Policies that are being brought about in their country without any consent. These are legitimate protest movements.
Is the Sri Lankan government is Sri Lanka an authoritarian state? Jesus Christ. The government of Sri Lanka is a parliamentary system determined by the Sri Lankan constitution. Okay, so to my understanding, the Sri Lankan government is a parliamentary system. There's no top-down edicts, okay?
But to acknowledge their legitimacy means to recognize the illegitimacy of the globalist order. That can never happen. So
what is that?
Have to disavow these kind of protests, because otherwise the momentum will start to gather. You'll start to notice, hang on a minute, the truckers, the people in Sri Lanka protesting right now, the people in the Netherlands.
How do you know
that? Wait a second. We all have the same interest.
No. These are separate things. These are separate. Holy, okay, I'm getting triggered. We're 6 minutes and 51 seconds in, and we have yet to see proof that the Great Reset is happening.
What if we were to cut it off? Like, because the alternative will be to intervene against the interests of the powerful.
Burning fury for all to see.
Burning fury, those Sri Lankan bastards burning stuff down simply because
And
they're
they directly
being
elect the
poor.
president, so more yeah, I don't get what he's trying to, like, where's the evidence for this? Like, a drop-down mandate from Karl Schwab? Is he the president of all these countries? What? What a fucking clown.
House set alight. Flames fueled by protesters' anger.
Anger, flames, bastards. How many more times? Why won't people just do what Klaus Schwab suggests?
But this has nothing to do with Karl Schwab. Jesus
An
Christ.
economic mismanagement that's left many suffering.
Suffering, bastards.
If anything, maybe the government could have taken better measures. I don't know. But that's not Karl Schwab. That's the government that was elected and put in there by the people. If the people have a problem with the freaking government, then so be it. And they'll vote accordingly, or they'll, like what happened in Sri Lanka, they'll overthrow it if they feel like it's really that oppressive. But this has nothing to do with Karl Schwab or the World Economic Forum. At least the evidence in this video has been non-existent.
The president's office was also stormed.
If you're just a person that watches the news, the impression you're going to have is fucking Sri Lankans are bastards, aren't they? Why can't they leave their president alone in his office? What's the point of a president? What's the point of a presidential office? What's the point of any democratic institution? It's meant to be to service the ordinary people of that nation. Because that agenda has been abandoned and replaced with corporate interests, you know that, you don't need me to tell you, they have to portray the protesters as some sort of lunatics ransacking a palace and knocking over what looked like a very expensive ornamental elephant.
What? That's not what the media was presenting it as anyways. And like, again, your original claim was that like Karl Schwab and like 5 people are like orchestrating what? The demise of farmers so that they could buy up all the land? Source? Please? Like, corruption in government is one thing. Like, yeah, no shit. There's corruption in government, and there's a disbalance between corporate like power and people. Yes. Okay.
There was an impromptu pool party.
Impromptu pool party! Spring break! Come on, back to work on the farm. You ain't got a farm anymore. Carry on with the swimming then!
It's rumoured the president's taken to the high waters as his country finds itself politically and economically all at sea.
I mean, in a sense, is there an image that more beautifully sums up the problems that we face than members of the Sri Lankan population reclaiming a swimming pool?
They shouldn't be in his swimming pool. I bet one of them done a wee. They're lucky there's not that special
All
guy
right,
in
I'm
there.
done. This is boring. I think I made my point. Anyways, I think I made my point with like the whole idea that like we've got people who literally listen to this garbage, millions and millions of people. That video alone had 1.1 million views, I think. Boo this man. True. Boo. My whole point of bringing that up is like it's just the lack of reality. It completely divorced from reality. And people to the tune of millions and millions and millions. This guy probably gets like tens of millions of views a month. I mean, just 1.1 on a single video, and he does like one a day basically. Brand might have some bots. No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe just by like sheer statistics, I'm sure some of them might be. But no, I think that a lot of people actually unironically buy this. Glad I was never really paying attention to him. Nah, he came onto my radar the moment he started getting, you know, off the rails. Yeah. All right, it's 8 p.m., folks. I gotta go. I gotta get my I gotta get some dinner. I am hungry. At this point, I'm more hangry than anything. I just can't stand nonsense like that. Well, anyways, I hope our friend from earlier learned a thing or two. Thanks for the stream. Thank you for hanging out. I hope that our friend from earlier learned a thing or two. Sources matter, facts matter, and the consensus of science is important. Thank you for deciphering this, Loon. Man, I don't know. I think it could be that he's really gone off the rails. I don't know. I can't say anything. Or it's one good grift. I mean, what better way to just kind of keep yourself relevant, right? Anyways, check your sources, folks. Okay, poke holes in the nonsense that's being presented to you, and you will find out that, hey, maybe not everything that everybody tells you is true. Maybe not everything that's on the internet is true. That's just a thought. All right, folks, if you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It does help us out, and you get 5 free emotes. Also, join us on the YouTubes, all right? I saw a couple of folks on the YouTube. Just make sure you hit the subscribe button if you want to keep up with the channel. Head on over to the Discord, all right? I do any updates that happen with the channel. If I need to do something, if a stream is canceled, anything that has to do with the updates. I also put all the articles and whatnot is on the Discord. So make sure you join that. And we're going to head on over to Alio's channel. They're doing the January 6th hearings. I figured that this is a perfect time as we get that on the way. Folks, let me get myself ready. All right, folks. We're ready. We're gonna get ready to hang out. Hang out with Alio. I appreciate you guys being here, as always. Please stay safe. Please take care of each other. I love you all, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Hang tight. All right, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. See ya.